And working on the top of the box, I'm putting this edging around, and this was I put red with a pink to get a more raspberry color like the paint is on the top. And it's still raw clay to raw clay, but I'm using liquid clay to help hold it in place. And it just takes a little bit, and it doesn't have to go all over the white side because you're just putting it down the center. So I cut out already where I wanted my hinge to be, and I put the hinges back on the top lid because of this. If I didn't have the hinges on, I wouldn't know where to cut this to make it fit to look nice. So, that piece of black clay out of there. I've already sliced this up the side. So I know where to put it. And I'm going to get my X-Acto knife. And match it up. Take it straight as I can all the way around the side, pressing the air out. Make sure that there's no air bubbles in between here at all. Just slightly press. Keep the liquid clay off your fingers again. If you have it on your fingers and you touch your painted object from your silk screen, it's going to smear. Okay, so it's cut actually side to side of this little hinge, and where to know to cut it this way, that's black clay on there, is I'm just going to set it down, and I'm working on a silicone piece of just a little silicone mat so my pieces won't stick to it. And then it's not going to hurt it. If I was working on a tile, it could possibly get stuck to the tile. And here's my hinge cut out. And the design still continues on. And I'll have to go back through and get some of this black clay off. This is the next step you can take this to. And that's after you've finished your box with your design, you can put a little bit of bling on the bottom. And you can put a border around the top. And it doesn't have to be a textured border like this one. It could be anything. It could be retro circles that you get out using your extruder. We'll cut this little piece off right here. That's where my texture sheet ended. But, you know, it doesn't have to be a texture sheet. Anything you want to put there. This texture sheet, the design happens to be if it's cut somewhere, like end to end, like I just cut off that one end that was a little bit too large. Right here is the same end, so this pattern continues on. And let me cut it out where my lock is up here. This side's a little bit more difficult. I have to go by feel, where I can feel it in there. But it's still easy to do, because you definitely can feel where the metal starts and your clay starts. And I'm bringing it back around to this side. I'm going to cut it off right there. That's where my clay ended, underneath there. Okay, now if I go over this with a roller, it possibly could distort the design in there. And I don't want to distort the design on this at all. And if you want to go to the next step with me, we can do that. Okay, I'll let my edging set just for a little bit. Now see, there's a place right here it doesn't look quite level and even, so let's pull that up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to take some black mica powder, and this is Christy Friesen's, and it's called Depth. And I'm just going to add a little bit on my finger, and I'm going to knock it off in the lid, because I don't want a whole lot. And I'm just lightly going to rub over the design. It's going to help bring out the black from the bottom, and it's going to help bring out the design that's on this pink strip, so you can see it just a little bit better. I'm just lightly touching the surface, and the black's just going right on top of the design. I got a really nice deep design on this from the texture sheet. So it's deep enough to where I can do this and not have any problems with it. And this is not a step that you have to do. I'm just showing you different steps that you can do easily that takes it just a little bit further along. The whole box gives it a totally different look, and it doesn't take that much time or that many products. You probably have the products. And if you don't have mica powders, use eyeshadows. They don't work quite as well, but they will work, and you can get the same effect. So now you can see, let me get to where you can see the black. Now you can see it. And that's just the mica powders on top of the design. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my bottom of the box to add rhinestones to this. I'm still going to use my little etch and pearl tool, because they're the same size rhinestones and I want the same effect from them. I have my pink clay rolled out on a number 3, and I'm just going to look in the design on here and see where I think the rhinestones would look nice. And I chose that right there to put it. There may not be as many on this one. Depends on the design and where I think they would look okay. Just a little bit more to bling it up. And remember, when you put your etch and pearl tool down, to give it a little twist when you're picking up your clay, or if you're putting your clay onto your other clay, and it will hold. And if you don't have the etch and pearl tool, make little tiny clay balls, and you can do the same thing with them. Just maybe a few more on the front than the rest of the design, because it is the front. And I'm going to take my ball tool needle again and push it down in the center of all these to make a little hole for my rhinestone to sit in. Okay, I'm going to go back, add a little bit of liquid clay to my liquid clay. Go back and add just a teeny tiny dab in those little holes to help hold the rhinestones in. Okay, now it's time to pick up my rhinestones again. Get some out of the little container and put them in the lid. They're easier to pick up that way. And again, I'm just going to set them in the hole and take the other end and push it down. Try to get them as level as possible. And if the liquid clay oozes over top of the rhinestone, start from the center of the rhinestone out and brush it out, brush it off. There's some right there. And it'll come off the rhinestone and go to the center where it doesn't matter. That's what is turning into a bezel type thing to hold your rhinestones in. Sometimes they're easier to pick up off the silicone mat if they're turning upside down on you. They don't always want to face up the way you want them to when you need to pick them up. And they don't always go in the hole the way you want them to. Some of them can be real finicky. And like I said, you can bake these separately where you don't have them all screwed back together yet. Or at this point, you can screw them together and bake them together. Now, so be careful when you're working with your mica powder on your pink that you don't get it on your white like I have. So I'm going to take some Scotch tape and pull it off the white areas without getting it on the paint. This will pick up your paint, but it'll also clean off your mica powder. Just put tape down and pull it back up. Now I got that off of there. Okay, so you can stop it at this stage. It has bling going around the bottom and bling going around the top sides and butterflies on top. So this is really pretty, and you could stop it at this stage. Okay, I'll let my edging set just for a little. We can leave our box just like it is. This is the top with the silk screen butterflies. We put the pink edging around it with a texture sheet. And I took my smallest etch and pearl tool from Sculpey and put little dots and put my little rhinestones. These are the little clear rhinestones from tinypandora.com. And I put those around there. On the bottom, we had the mica powder through the silk screen, and that was a floral type silk screen. And we put the little rhinestones just in different places within the design where I thought it would look good. Now I haven't connected the two together yet, but I have the hardware back on because I wanted to make sure that I got the pink band where it needed to be with the hinge on the back and the lock on the front. Okay, this is taking it one step further if you want to. You don't have to. But I just thought it looked pretty the way it was, but I just thought it needed something else. That's just me. So if you don't want to do this step, you don't have to, but it sure is going to make a difference. Because we're going to make these butterflies. And I'll show you how to do it. I used a silicone mold. And we'll see how to do that. I'll do a couple for you. And this is what they turn out like. Let me turn it the other way around. Here's one of the larger ones. And a medium-sized one. A really tiny one. And I did them in black clay, of course, you can see that. And I added some rhinestones to them, but I also added some glitter to them. Like with this big one. This big one has the mica powders, and this one is the one that I used on the bottom of the box. This is flamingo pink, and it's a Pearlix, and I have some of it in there. What looks gold down here in the bottom is the Glamour mica powder from Christy Friesen. And we've used it before. And I'm also using a little bit of, I think it was called Rose Quartz. And this is Inca Gold. And I just put it in this little container so it wouldn't take up so much space on my work table. And I've done them in different ways. They either have one or the other of the surface treatment on them. Some of them have a little bit, some of them have a little bit more. Some of them have one rhinestone in them. Some of them have more than one. This one is 3 going down the middle. So you can decorate those any way you wish. And we're going to add them to our box. Now we'll start off with my black clay that I had left over. And I've conditioned it really well so it's soft. And I'm going to squish it up really well. Let me back out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to squish it up. And I want to put it in one of my molds. One of these butterflies. And we'll do one that will be easy enough for you to see. We'll do this medium-sized one. And you just push your clay in there, and if it's over the edge of your design, then I'll pull that clay back in towards the center and push it out again. The important thing is you want to make sure you get all your points in whatever you're doing. I mean, there's snowflakes, there's roses, there's leaves, there's any kind of silicone molds that you can think of. And they're easy to use. You get a good impression with them. And I really stick that down in there. And if it's more detailed, I also have used a ball stylus to push it down in there if it's a deeper mold. Some of these are deeper. Now to get the extra off of the top of the mold, I heard Cindy Holtz talk about this a couple of years ago, and she was doing a sculpting video, and she was using the silicone molds, and she said if you start in the middle and go out towards the edges, your clay is going to go out more on the edge and fill in that tip of the design. If you go from the edge over, there's a good chance that it's going to pull that edge of the clay out of your design. Some of them are really difficult to start in the middle. These little tiny butterflies were so small that it was hard to start in the middle, but I tried as much as I could to get them in there. But you'll see that that just filled that in perfectly. I'm glad I'm using black with this whitish mold so you can see. It went right out to the edge of the wings all the way around by doing it that way. And the molds are so soft, you just bend them up, roll them up, and roll your design right out. And here's your butterfly. Let me zoom in on that one since that's one you watched me make. And there's all of your designs, your wing designs, everything. So what are we going to do with these? Well, I had to sit and think about that for a while. I like these, but I don't want to cover up the butterflies on my lids. But let me show you how to sparkle up and bling up your butterflies that you've got molded. And then I'll show you how and where I'm going to attach them to the box. I think I want to do this one in the glamour, in the little creases at the bottom here. Now we'll take a really fine paintbrush. This one's really a liner brush. And I will dip it in my powder. And I'm just going to spot it into these little areas that are way down deep in there. And that'll give me that bottom design. And just bling it up a little bit. do everything on this one. We'll put the Glamour mica powder on the bottom part so you can see the differences. And get it way down in there. Now, let me zoom back in so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, it's on the bottom part, so let me get right here a little bit. I don't want to leave anything unblinged. Let me put the lid back on my mica powder. If you've not spilled mica powder, boy, you're in for a treat. Okay, I'm going to do my tape trick. This is plain ordinary Scotch tape. And I want to remove some of it off of the top of the design here. And this will remove what was sitting on top of my design, the top layer, without getting down into the bottom layer. Now you can only use one section of your tape one time. So it took it off the surface and left it down in the bottom. But looking at it in the camera now, I see I need some more over here in this area, and there happens to be some right here. So let's see if I can't get some of that in there. And let me remove this bit of mica powder. You can do this little tape trick with pan pastels, chalk pastels, mica powders, anything that you get it where you don't want it. So let's get rid of that. Now I'm going to take the pink, flamingo pink mica powder, and I'm just going to put a little bit on my fingers. And I'm just going to take it around the edges on the outside. So that didn't go down in deep into my design. That just stayed on the top part of my design. And let me get the lid back on this. And when you're working with Inca Gold, if you put your finger in there, it's going to contaminate it. So I don't want to put my finger in there. I use the end of my little eyeshadow applicator. And I'm just going to put a little bit on my finger. And I'm going to put it right in the middle where the butterfly body is. So I've got my Glamour powder in the bottom, the goldish looking. Let's zoom in again. Let me get it and hold it up there. Okay, I've got my Glamour mica powder in the bottom where it looks like gold. Going around the outside edges is my flamingo pink mica powder, and going down the body, that lighter whitish looking area right now, is my rose quartz Inca Gold. So there's 3 different things on here to give it bling. And now I want to add some rhinestones to the center of this. And I will take my really small, let me back out a little bit. I'm going to take my really small ball stylus and I'm going to put 3 holes in the body. So there's my 3 holes in the body, right here, going down there. And I will take a little bit of liquid clay or baking adhesive. Bacon bond will work if everything you use with these little tiny crystals has to be used sparingly. So again, I will take the end of my ball stylus and just fill that hole with a little tiny bit of my liquid clay. Wipe this up so I don't make a mess with this stuff now. And I'm going to take my crystal katana, which is a bead setting crystal tool type thing. And there's also wax pencils you can use to grab your rhinestone and set it in there. And then this one has the other end, it's like a needle tool. And you just push your rhinestone in. I want to flatten it out. And with the liquid clay being in there, when these bake, it'll hold on to the clay and not come out. Especially when you push it down, it makes like its own little bezel. Okay, we're going to let that one set for a little while. And I think I want to do another big one. And maybe a medium-sized one. Because I'm going to put the little ones, I think, going around the pink band. And just setting them on there where I don't have rhinestones already. Just to add that little bit of difference and that little bit of bling. Start with a couple of small ones, but I want them to stand out just a little bit, so I'm going to use my Etch and Pro tool in my clay, raspberry type clay that I mixed. Here we have a little bit of pink in there, and I think a butterfly would look real pretty right here. This is still raw clay to raw clay, and it will adhere by itself. But with this butterfly being a little bit larger, I want to put a little dot of liquid clay on them to hold them on there. But using the Etch and Pro, if you don't have the Etch and Pro tool, just make a little ball and flatten one side so it'll lay flat against your trim, but it will stick out on top and not lay flat. And if the pink clay shows, it doesn't matter, it's pink under there to begin with. So there's a butterfly on. I don't want to add too many. What about the top? I don't want to cover up the center butterflies, but there's areas here where only half the butterflies showed up on the print. So what about if we take, this is one of the medium-sized ones, and where that didn't show all the way up, what if we take one and set it on there like that? You can still see behind it. Let's see if we have another one. Let's try a larger one over here. And maybe this one we just did with all the bling on it. Like set it right here. We could put, to have the three larger ones on top, I just set those there so they're not hooked on yet. We could have three of the larger ones on top. And I think I like that. So again, I want it to stick up just a little bit. It's going to, because it's a thicker clay on top of there. And I want it to come up just a little bit more, so I'm going to use my largest Etch and Pro tool. And we'll put a dot right here. And you can see how big that dot is there. And I want to put liquid clay on there. But I also want to put a little bit of liquid clay on the back of my butterfly. Just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot because this is still raw clay to raw clay. I have chosen not to bake this yet and do it all in one baking, but you can do it in several bakings. And if you're not used to doing things like this, I would suggest that you do it in several bakings. Okay, let's fix it to where just the top of that butterfly is sticking up some, just to give it a little bit dimension. Let's see where the top, I don't know if you can see it on camera or not. The top's just right there, but the rest of it's all. Now I've been doing this beginning series and trying to show you step by step how I do things, so maybe it will help you and give you some ideas. I think sometimes we get our clay and get so excited and get started that then it's, oh no, what do I do with it? So I'm hoping this series has helped you know what to do with your clay and to give you some ideas. Okay. So do I want to add some butterflies to the bottom? Do I want to add this size? And put one there? I just may. I think I'm just going to lay it down straight and not put a little piece of clay underneath it. And I'm just going to add the liquid clay to the box instead of the butterfly. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's ready to bake now. I'll go back through and double check everything, make sure everything's stuck on there well, and everything's lined up, and our box is finished. Here's our edges with the rhinestones along the bottom, and a couple of little butterflies on there that bling. And if I think it needs anything else, I'll stick it on there, but I think it's fine for now. If you've been watching my series on the beginning series, this was within the Skinner Blend beginning series video, and I showed you what happens to a piece of clay if you run it through your pasta machine the wrong way and your Skinner Blend doesn't blend correctly. But you still get a variety of color within that blend, and we never throw polymer clay away. This was a paper mache box that I had, and actually I had already decorated it and didn't like it, and took the clay off of it as well as I could while it was still wet and not baked. And I'll just put this blue on there. These are my etch and pearl tools in the 3 different sizes. Here's the small size and the medium size and the large size. And where I put my rhinestones, like right here and right here, I put 2 of the large circles. And then I stuck my rhinestone down in there. On the top, that Skinner Blend that I purposely did incorrectly to show you what could happen. It's a different color. It's a totally different color of blue. This was the lighter part of the Skinner Blend. And I rubber stamped and I stamped it. And then I added pan pastels and mica powders. And the different sizes again of my little pearls from the etch and pearl. And then the center one right here is the only one that has the rhinestone in it. So I did this to show you, if you think you did something wrong, don't throw that clay away. You can always turn it into something else. This is my sea, like a sea little bubble box. Seashells and all the corals and all my little bubbles everywhere. So just thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and also to the Tiny Pandora Design Team channel. There's 8 of us on the team this year, and we have all sorts of ideas. So until next time, blessings.